Hi everybody, it's Miss Mileham. I know the fourth graders are working on today. They're reading a passage about George Washington, who happens to be like my favorite. So I thought I would read this book to you. It's one of my favorites about George Washington. It's called George Washington, Our Founding Father by Frank Keating, and it's got some amazing illustrations as well. So I'm going to read this book to you, give you a little more information about my love, George Washington, and also I wanted to show you my new little guy. Isn't he cute? Just got him. Little ponytail in the back. So there's so much to love about George Washington, so I thought that I could share some of my love with you. So also know that the fifth graders are reading and working on some things about the Revolutionary War too, so maybe this might be useful for you as well. So the first thing is, this is a picture of Mount Vernon, and this is where George Washington and his wife Martha lived, and I actually got to go and stay there for a week a few years back for a teacher institute. It was really amazing. So I might have to share some of my other pictures from that trip with you later. Okay, here we go. I am remembered as the father of my country, the indispensable man, first in war, first in peace, first in the hearts of my countrymen. First, I was a child. I was born February 22nd, 1732, the fifth of 10 children. My Virginia birthplace was a house built on a bed of oyster shells. My parents were Augustine and Mary Ball Washington. To my great sadness, my father died when I was 11. In school, I studied hard. Arithmetic, penmanship, reading. I began to write a list of rules that my teachers taught me, rules of character that I knew I must always remember. At play, I was tall and strong. Frequently, I was asked to be the peacemaker. I formed a company of boy soldiers at school. I was chosen captain and spent hours of fun marching my friends across the grass. When my classmates and I had no books to read, we entertained ourselves by memorizing the names and verses from old tombstones. Some were quite funny. John Heiser, the miser, is wiser, we hope. At age 15, my formal education ended. Though defective to my mind, it was not unusual for children of my time to finish school at a young age. Since my father had passed away, I was expected to help take care of my mother and for our large family. When I left school, I became a surveyor. I was also a blacksmith and a carpenter. I could make a barrel about as well as a cooper could. My work became a classroom of life lessons I learned from experience. I grew by reading and observing. Good manners bred good morals, and good morals produced a respected and successful adult. I applied the rules of civility to all that I did. I put them into practice. They were my primer on life. I first learned them in school. I wrote them down. They became a part of me. In my 20s, I was in the midst of action. I was a major in the militia. I was bent to arms and volunteered to lead a party through 900 miles of wilderness to deliver a message to the French. I was young, but I was trusted. I was trained and confident. I was selected to lead. The weather was bone-chilling. I parleyed with Indians. A bullet fired not 15 steps away nearly struck me. I was thrown into a swift, roaring river and almost drowned. But my strength and will to survive saved me. For months, I withstood cold and hardships, yet I accomplished my mission and came home a respected and wiser man. Later, I returned to the woods and accompanied our English forces on a mission to eject the French from their claims to the Ohio Valley. The battle was the opening of a worldwide 7-year war that would drive the French from North America and place our British cousins firmly in charge of the continent. I heard the bullets whistle, I wrote. 4 bullet holes were in my coat, and 2 horses were wounded under me. A lead ball passed through my hat. Our effort was unsuccessful, but I had done my boldest and best. I came home a hero. At age 27, I married Martha, a widow and mother of 2 children, Patsy and Jackie. I had no children of my own. My principles were clear. The lesson plan was straightforward. The rules of civility had been a part of me since I copied them when I was 15. They sustained me through the birth of our nation. When Virginia and the other colonies began the great debate for independence, I was there. I wore my uniform to the sessions of Congress. I was unanimously selected as commander-in-chief of our armies. I devoted myself solely to American union and patriotism. I remembered the advice of my youth. I kept my promise. I was the first soldier commissioned by my country. I remained in the army and did not return home until each battle was won. Darkness and defeat, success and uncertainty, but never despair. The virtue of my men and the nobility of our cause would ultimately bring our reward. God was an active agent in all that we were attempting. Our prayers were answered. This wonderful revolution was won, and those who would treat us as slaves were forced from our shores. But the ending was just as the beginning. The new nation was weak. We had national character to establish. The country needed to defend liberty and provide for representative government. The preservation of the sacred fire of liberty and the destiny of the Republican model of government were staked on this experiment. A constitutional convention was called. I was unanimously chosen as its president. We began our task. Finally, our work was done. The Constitution, few in words, created a national government while limiting the powers of that government. It was a document devoted to the common good. When the states accepted the Constitution, I was unanimously elected as our country's first president, and then elected again for a second term. I led a great people to make a great land, to create a better world. That's the end. I hope that you like this book as much as I do, and that maybe you learned a little bit more about George Washington, my boyfriend, who I love. So if you have any other questions about George Washington, I'm happy to answer them. And I have a couple of other books about George Washington that I'll probably be bringing to you at a later time. So enjoy your time reading about George Washington, and let me know if you have any questions.